Thanks for joining us on Coast to Coast Pest Talk.
Oh, that would be nice. Do that? No.
No. Yeah, I've protected Gabe from himself several times already.
That's actually Andy's primary role. Great, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to Coast Pest Talk. I'm your host, Gabe, with Pest Patrol, joined here by Andy Sinevsky over with Pomerix Pest Management in Syracuse, New York. And we've got a special guest today, Siavash. Oh, goodness. Last name. How do you spell this?
Taravati.
Taravati. Siavash Taravati. Siavash is part of the IPM program at University of California, and he's the owner of Pomerix Pest Solutions, hereby to be referred to as Pomerix going forward. Which, would you give us kind of a rundown of your background in the industry, Siavash, and then kind of an overview of this software?
Absolutely. So thank you guys for having me, and thank you for what you're doing. It's been a very nice podcast. My name is Siavash. I am an extension agent down here in Southern California in Riverside. I actually cover 4 counties as a part of my job with UC. And my job is basically to promote structural IPM, in Southern California, in my region. So I do research and extension work here, do my own research on different pests, termites, ants, sometimes, little bed bugs. And then I go to various meetings and give talks, and I hold my own meetings with the UC IPM program team. So the project for today, it's an independent project, not endorsed or supported by UC. It's an independent project that I did by myself, and it's all about improving the pesticide search experience for users, because all of us use pesticides, and there are many products out there. A lot of them are registered, and then you have 25B products which are not registered. But for the EPA database, I've always found that although they have a lot of good information on their website, and also states have their own state databases, but it's searching pesticide is not easy. It could be better. It could be more fun. It could be faster. And that's the whole idea behind this pesticide search platform that I'm going to talk about. So disclaimer. So Pomerix, as I mentioned, is not endorsed or supported by my employer or the University of California or any other public agency. This is completely an independent project. Okay, so here's a quick video showing how Pomerix works. Okay, so you start typing stuff, and very similar to Google, as soon as you do that, the platform is going to suggest you some matches, right? So here, just MER, you're going to see merit, some products. You're going to see some site commodities, some plant species, some pests, some weeds. And also, you're going to see some active ingredients. So all of them are clickable. You can click on it, and then you'll end up on another page with more information. Okay.
So is that the color coded on the right-hand side of each one of the little returns there? It's color coded based on whether it's a target pest or active or whatnot. Yeah.
Exactly, to make it easier to visually see that. And then if you look, some products are canceled. So because,
right,
a lot of products get registered, but then after some years, the business, they go out of business, or sometimes products get banned. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Yep. And then, but they're still on the database. So it's really good to look into historical aspects of pesticide to see what pesticides we used to have available to us, but not anymore.
Yeah. So you don't have to hit enter as you're doing this. You just as you're typing, it'll start to auto-populate some returns.
Exactly. You don't have to. You just type, and then you see suggestions, and you just click on them.
Yep.
And I constantly try to improve that, but yes, that's the whole idea. I mean, you can't find any faster way of finding stuff, because with EPA database or like state databases, they have a lot of good information and the most updated information. But when you go up there, you need to sometimes enter information in different boxes and then click enter, or like a search button, and then you go to the next page. With this one, it's like a search as you type, like Google type of search system. Yes. So you see some suggestions, and in this case, we're going to click on Merit 2F, and then you'll end up on another page with all the details related to the pesticide, right? Such as the target pest, as you can see here, like the scale insects, for example. You can see the label and SDS information, registration information, and description of the pest, and a lot of other information which I'm going to talk to you about. And also you can search for active ingredients. If you look here, if I search imidacloprid, I can click on imidacloprid, and then I can see all the products that have imidacloprid inside, as an active ingredient. So this is really good for doing research. I'm not talking about like in academia research. If you just want to do some research and find what options you have, this tool is going to be very helpful to you. And you can search by active only, products that are currently active, or you can search products that everything, the ones including those that are not active anymore. So again, the same information, everything is on a single page, and that's why I believe using it's very easy.
I found in the times I've been using this since it came out, it's one of the best resources I found to sort of cross-reference if you wanted to stay with the same active ingredient but change formulation, or you wanted the same formulation but a different active ingredient, to cycle products and product rotations and modes of action, things for resistance management. It's a great resource for that, because otherwise you're just thumbing through, information from manufacturers or websites, and reading through labels, till you go cross-eyed, and you still don't cover half of what you can do in 5 minutes with this system.
No, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Yes, that's what I've been trying to do.
Can you search by target pest?
Yes, you can search by target pest, and then I'm going to do it later on. Toward the, after a few slides, if you don't mind, I can go on the actual website and then search for some stuff. We can do it together, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So this. And then, so your previous question, like how it started, I've been always interested in biology, but I also, was always interested in a little bit coding, computer stuff. So in the old times, not so old, but like, when, coding was not that easy, I used to do some like QBasic coding. You could do a lot of stuff with it, but then it took a huge amount of work. For example, if you just wanted to have a menu, where you can go up and down and click, you had to write like hundreds of lines of codes, and it was really difficult. Nowadays, you just drag and drop, and just like 5-10 lines of codes, and you're done. So yes, I started with that, and then a little bit like Visual Basic from Microsoft, even C language. But then I started doing like web development. And what I really liked about web development was that I could produce an app or a page or whatever, and I could share it with the whole world. So that was the beauty of web applications, web development to me, compared to like these softwares like C language or even like Visual Basic stuff. Because with those, you are limited, you're tied to an operating system, right? But when you have a web page, you can look it on your cell phone, you can look it on your tablet, you can look it on your PC, on your laptop, everywhere, pretty much everywhere. And I started learning like HTML. These are like scripting languages. PHP, MySQL for databases. And again, the advantage to me was that they're portable and they're not too much reliant on the operating system.
So when you say in the old days, how long ago are the old days?
Well, for me, I'm talking about I'm 40, so
Okay.
I'm talking about So I don't have
So you're really old.
Experience with like those punch cards and stuff that my
Okay.
dad used to do. I don't like they had a computer like was the size of a room, so I
Yeah.
don't have that experience. But when I started, and I feel old when I talk to like freshmen, as college freshmen,
Yeah.
because. And my colleague was telling me, "Oh, you are old," because if you think about it, you are like 20-something years older than him. And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right."
I was hoping that this would be our first episode where I wouldn't be the oldest person on the podcast, but it looks like I'm foiled again. So
So close, Andy. So close.
jeez. Okay.
Older
All
than
right.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Older than the internet, that's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So because you're talking, I noticed that like your last episode, you talked about digital stuff and technology. So I thought, it would be nice for me to mention the difference between web and smartphone and desktop apps, because these are something that we deal with all the time, right?
Yep.
We deal with them all the time. So when the word app is very confusing these days, right? It could mean a web-based app, like you go to a website, it's an app, right? Because it shows you some stuff. It could be a WordPress website. It could be, using other technologies, but something that you see on a browser, okay? And it's not too dependent on the operating system that you're using. So they're portable, generally speaking, and they're kind of almost independent on the operating system. It doesn't matter that if you're using Windows or like using a Mac or you're on a cell phone. They work in most places, and they're cheaper to develop and easier to maintain. That's the main difference between HTML or like web-based apps and smartphone and desktop apps. With smartphone apps, they're very popular, especially in the younger generation, but they're not portable between devices, meaning that when you download a program, a package, to install, that package is designed to work only on, for example, your Android device. You can't use the same file and deploy it on an iPhone, for example. Okay. There are some apps that help you to transition, like you write the code and you deploy it on different devices. But for advanced stuff, programmers need to use native app development systems that developed by either Google or Apple. Okay, so they're not that portable. They're dependent on the operating system, but they're more capable than HTML or web-based apps, because they can use the hardware more efficiently. They have more access privileges. They can use your microphone easily. I mean, on the web apps, you can use microphone too, like what we're doing right now. But they can use the graphic card. For example, for gaming stuff, they're all, or most of 99% of the time, those advanced gaming apps, they're either like a smartphone or desktop apps. They're not web-based, because you can't do that kind of stuff with web-based applications. The downside is that they're very expensive. So you can give it to, I don't know, to India or to other countries, to write it for you. It's going to be cheaper. But then a good app with good maintenance is going to cost a lot of money. And that's the caveat of going for smartphone apps, okay? And then you need to constantly upgrade them. You need to constantly update them, because Google and Apple constantly are improving, updating their technologies. And for your app to be able to work on those systems, you need to constantly kind of like updated. And Apple and Google literally are running a duopoly on apps these days, and they have a lot of power. If you don't follow the rules, they're going to shut you down. And if you look online, you hear a lot of stories about problems and tensions between companies and Google and Apple, and then even like other countries, dictatorships, and then how they work with these regimes, really, because they want to be able to work in those countries. So they shut down, like channels and stuff like that. Anyhow, so now let's talk about the actual pesticide database. So on my platform, I'm using EPA's database. So it has over 85,000 entries, which are products. So more than 85,000 products. And they have over 5,800 pest names, 5,300 site names, and more than 2,400 active ingredients. Okay, and they keep updating the database. I believe it's like every 2 weeks, but don't quote me on it. I don't remember, but they update their database every 2 weeks or so. And then you have the state databases. I'm sure you have used the New York, and then Gabe, you're in Oregon, right?
Yep.
So states have their own database, and of course, not all federally registered products, end up in the states, because the states sometimes they don't like them, they don't approve them, they don't register them. But yeah, in this case, I use EPA database for the whole thing.
Okay, so because I had some questions about that a little bit. So it's not like you had gone through and thumbed through all these registrations and active ingredients and then compiled them into a database, and that's what your system's looking at. It's sourcing it straight from the EPA. So if it says it's active according to the EPA.
Yes. Yeah. With the only thing that I don't update it that often. So I need to add that disclaimer to my website, because I can't. There's no way for me to update this every 2 weeks.
Sure.
But yes, these are all from EPA, because sometimes companies contact me and saying that, our address is wrong. And I'm like, this is from EPA, and I'm sorry, but you need to wait until the next database update, because I can't update it every week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've been using yours for the bulk of the front end search and research of products and active ingredients, especially application sites and whatnot, and then cross referencing that once I've narrowed it down to say 2 or 3 products that I'm like, okay, I'm interested in these ones. They have the right characteristics and requirements. Then go to my state database, which is slower than heck, and find those ones. Make sure that they're registered in New York State, which half the time they're not.
They're not, right?
Because of New York, but then get the final official labels that are approved by my state specifically. But when we had to search through the state database, for the primary portion of the search, it was just an absolute nightmare. So then you end up not rotating products as often, not doing as much research, because you're like, well, I know these couple ones. Do I want to go through the nightmare of researching, 30 more products?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. No, exactly. And I think, California and New York are very similar, because both are very strict, right?
Yep.
In regard to approving pesticides. So actually, a while ago, I was looking at the product. I'm not going to mention the product, but it was like a kind of like fishy, mosquito product. And then I realized that it's registered in many states, but then it's not registered in California, not in New York, maybe not even in Texas. And apparently, that company had a hard time convincing, the regulatory agencies, that their product, really works. And I'm glad that they didn't approve it, because it doesn't work.
Yeah, keep that out of here. The other discrepancy we see a lot is that there's a lot of products that are restricted use products in New York, but not federally restricted use. So that's important to
Oh,
check with your state, because we'll have products that are state restricted use
oh,
when they aren't federally. So if you just think, hey, federally it's not restricted use, I can just do whatever we would normally do with a general use product. You want to make sure that your state hasn't deemed it otherwise.
exactly. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I actually need to add that to my database because we don't want confusion. We don't want people
Yep.
to assume that because it's on EPA's database, you can use it, wherever you are. Exactly. It happens a lot in California, and I'm sure in New York.
Yep.
And I know that New York has, like, a lot of products. I see that they have a separate New York label.
They do. They have
Right.
they'll have a supplemental label, or they'll have a
Supplemental.
specific New York language label,
Okay.
where there's different things that the manufacturer had to add or subtract from the label language for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to approve it for use in New York. So you have to be very, it goes without saying, and we probably should have said this right off the bat, and maybe it should be on your website somewhere, really big. Just read the label. No matter what this database says,
Exactly.
you still read the label for the product you have in your hand.
Exactly. No, I'm gonna do that, as soon as possible.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Exactly.
Cool.
So like general problems that we have or I see with pesticide search platforms, as I mentioned. So they are like state and the federal databases. They have the most updated information. So for sure, people who want to make sure that their product is okay to use, they need to check those. But at the same time, they're not necessarily easy to use. Sometimes they're slow, and especially for exploring, your options, exploring your products, and to check what pest can be controlled with what product, then they're not easy. And that's the whole idea behind Pomerix's database. So if you look here, when I compiled, when I got the data and then worked on it, I think I spent around 50% of the time to create a search and find product portion of the platform. And then the rest of the time was spent on delivering product info for each product, like all those details that I showed you in the beginning, which we're going to explore. Those are not readily available. So from what EPA provides to us. So a lot of data restructuring happens there to make it easy and fast for the user to see everything on a single page. Okay. And as I said, it's a search as you type kind of system like Google. As soon as you start typing, you're going to see some matches. All right. And that makes exploring stuff and finding what you're looking for much faster, because instead of clicking on a search button or go next button and then seeing results, you can just type, and correct your keyword, change your keywords, and then see products right as you type in. All right. So the main goal was to make the whole pesticide search fun and easy. Okay. And the information that you can see on each page for each product is EPA's label link. And this is a little bit different than the one that you find on products, like a specimen kind of label. This shows the label plus the actual approval letter from EPA, and it actually takes you to EPA website, because they have a huge archive of all these approval letters and the label and stuff, and they keep updating. So let's say when a product gets re-registered, what happens is that the EPA produces another approval letter with date and signature and stuff, to approve changes to the label, and so they're going to add another PDF file to their database. That's how it works. So of course you're going to see the product name, registration number, registration and cancellation dates, which is very interesting. You want to see how old a product is, and you can easily see that something was registered in the 80s and still being used. So some manufacturers keep their product active for many years, but there are many products out there that are not active anymore. And then alternative names, which I'm going to talk about. This is very interesting. Product names change. So it's the same thing, and EPA does not require them to re-register, but then they need to, or maybe they do, but it's the same product, with the same active ingredients. It's just like a marketing strategy to help companies to sell their products, right? And then the signal word, active ingredient names and percentages, formulation, and as I mentioned, target pests and sites. And I also added a user feedback, which I'm really excited about, because I don't want it to be like a one-way exchange of information. I want to know what people think about products.
You mentioned a specimen label, and a lot of people don't realize a specimen label and a legal label are two different things. I know the regulatory agencies here in New York, they want you to use the actual legal label, not a specimen label. Like if they audit your service vehicle, you have to have the real label.
The real label, right?
The specimen label, they say, is more like a marketing label. So some of them will say it'll be sort of like watermarked specimen label sort of in the background. Sometimes you'll see that on certain labels. So just be certain. We tend to use the ones that are marked by New York State, so they'll have the state approval on them. We'll get those from the state database.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to know. Thank you. So just about alternative names, it's actually very interesting because you can do a whole lot of research to see how pesticide names change. For example, Cymexa, which is a popular dust for controlling bed bugs, I'm sure you're familiar.
Yep.
Used to be called Silicide, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Oh, wow.
Silicide. But then, I don't know, maybe they had a problem with the name or whatever. They changed it to Cymexa insecticide dust. Or Advion ant gel used to be called Airlawn ant gel bait and DuPont Advion ant gel. So, and then that name is inactive. So you can see all these names. And what bothers me is that some products have hundreds of these alternative names, like Algae Fix. It's like products that you put in your aquarium to control algae and stuff. This product, I think has almost like 200 or something alternative names, and they every year or two they change the name, and at the same time I think they have a bunch of these ones. And look at the names, like Fountain and Water Gardening Algae Attack, AFI Fountain and Water Gardening Algae Control, and then blah 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 Algae Destroy, Algae Destroyer Advanced. And then you go down, you see stuff about frogs, about fish, about so it's some companies
super duper algae destruction.
Yes. I'm sure you have something like that there too. So I just took a screenshot, but then I think they have around 200 names or something like that. So some companies do it like really intensely, but other ones, as you can see, maybe just once, twice, 3 times, and then they kind of like discontinue the whole product line, and then they may create something new. But sometimes you see stuff like that. So I talked about the user feedback part, right? So I really hope that I can get more get feedback. I mean, already I've gotten some, but not that many feedback from users. But as you can see here, on every single product, I have something like, do you like this product? Yes or no, and why? And what type of pest you have used it against, and where do you buy this product? And I live in this country, and if you click on the US, then you can put your zip code and then a security question, because they're like these scammers and bots everywhere, so you need to like make sure that you have enough basic security to prevent spammers from entering information. And personally, I didn't want to put this, where do you buy or find this product, but I added it because I get some feedback sometimes, and people mention canceled product, and they're like, oh yeah, we love this canceled product, and I use it against this pest and that pest. But when you look at the product, it was canceled like 10, 20 years ago. So I'm not sure what's going on. And, of course, I'm not interested in giving them a hard time or trouble, but I just want to know for myself why and how they're using a canceled product today. And I just don't understand. And if you're ready, we can just go and look at some products here.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
On the actual website. I think it would be easier to understand.
Yep,
So now let me do the search again. Cymexa, okay. And I click on it. And then the information that I talked to you about, this is like a user feedback. If I click on it, why you're using it, against what pest. And if I click United States, then it's going to ask for a zip code. I hate to, ask for too much information from people. I don't want to do anything bad for the privacy, but then just having a country is not enough, right? Because you want to know which state and preferably, what zip code they're in. So, and then if you click on the pest label, it will take you to the EPA page. I'm not going to click on it because then I have to switch screen and stuff like that. And then you can see the registration number. This is the like a company code, and this is their product. It's a small company, so they don't have a ton of product compared to like older ones like Syngenta, BASF, Bayer. Sure. And then this is the status of the product. So if you look at the canceled product, it's going to say canceled in red. And then this is a generated description. It's not like ChatGPT generated. It's like a manual kind of thing, but then it creates a sentence from the database. So this is an insecticide. It's, registration is this. And then originally it was like registered on this date, the signal. So it's like a summary of the whole page in a single paragraph, basically. All right. So you can see that it was first registered in 2011, but it must be for psilicide, I guess, right? Because that's a newer name, Cymexa. And then there's no cancellation date, which means that it's currently active. Because if it's canceled, there should be a date here. On which date it got canceled. And then the alternative names that I just talked about, and you can see the registrant name and address here. And so it's Rockwell, and then they still, are produce some products under Maggie's Farm. I'm sure you've seen some, I was looking at some like ant gel stuff. So some of them still come out as Maggie's Farm products. And then the active ingredients, in this case, is silicon dioxide, and then the rest, is inert ingredients. Signal word, which is caution, and product type, insecticide. And you can have insecticide, miticide, herbicide, pesticide, for killing fish, and other stuff. And then formulation, which in my experience it's something that is really hard to find. Like sometimes, some products, put those like abbreviations like EC or D for dust, but then many times, it's not easy to find the actual formulation of a product from the label. And this has been really helpful for me because I initially make this database for myself, this search platform to make my own work easier. And then I was like, what? Why don't I share this, with everyone? And that's how the whole thing started.
It seems like that formulation as part of the name was much more fashionable. Like in the late 90s and early 2000s, you'd have every product name had something Tempo
like
2 EC or whatever D or whatever.
Right.
And like now it's like everybody's gotten like more clever about their product names.
Right.
So they're just like some fancy name and you're like, oh man, that was great when we used to have like some formulation. I sound like the old guy sitting on the porch now. Like, man, it was great when we used to do it this way.
Good information, Andy. Good information. And I see a lot of like older products with the active ingredient name also in their product name. Like if they had imidacloprid, the old ones, always, or not always, but like many of them had it in their name.
Yep.
But now it's like,
Yep.
not there anymore. Okay, good information. I learned something new. Yeah. So, and then registered target pests. In this case, like Cymexa is not registered for a whole ton of pests, but for some labels, you're going to see many pests mentioned on the label. And then the target sites, commercial, institutional, industrial, and for like houses, domestic dwellings, and warehouses, and hotels, indoor, outdoor, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's a huge section that saves a ton of time. Versus most of the labels, it's buried in the directions somewhere. Like, can you use this product in a commercial kitchen? And you're like sifting through the label and finding where it says, how to use it for that specific thing, maybe a roach or whatever. And you're reading paragraphs worth of tiny little text and whatever, but like having it right up there. Now I need bifocals. Now I'm sounding even older, right? God, I'm just going to shut up the rest of this.
No. You're absolutely right. It's very difficult sometimes, and even when it's not too hard, just thinking about going through the label and having to spend time, sometimes a lot of time, to find that detail is like too hard on your brain, right?
Right.
Maybe when you do it, it's not that hard depending on the label, but just thinking about, oh my God, do I have to? But yes, this definitely can help. Just as a word of caution, for some reason, EPA's database, even the most updated one, does not include all the target pests and target sites that you see on the label. And honestly, I'm not sure why, because I used to be in touch with some EPA folks. I think they're retired, and then still when you contact EPA, for some reason, they give you this boilerplate message, oh, we're understaffed after COVID. I'm like, oh my God, even still now,
Yeah.
So it's sometimes really hard to get any information, extra information to clarify things. So yeah, so like, for example, I think I saw that just recently they added mattress as a target site.
Oh.
Yes, I think now, because I was checking the EPA's database just recently, maybe a few weeks ago, and then I saw mattress coming up right on their target site for Cymexa.
Oh, wow.
So I think, yeah, they keep adding sites and pests and stuff. And let me close this thing. Yes, so this is one product. So this is another one. You can see registration date. And again, so this is the current one, but then it used to be, or maybe it's still active, prescription treatment brand Alpine WSG. So that was the the complete name, and then TC315. So it's really interesting to see these changes. And
wow, that holdover is funny. The prescription treatment, I think, was the public branding for I think this was an old Whitmire Microgen product, and they had their prescription treatment line of products. And then I think it was BASF or somebody that bought Whitmire years and years and years ago. And so that's why that prescription, and there was products that were PT whatever, and it was prescription treatment. But that's the old Whitmire products from a million years ago.
They weren't. They were just pest control products.
Yeah. It was a chemical company. It was a smaller chemical company.
That's great.
And they did, like, if you had like the System 3, the aerosol unit that's like brass that you clamp on the top of a can to, I don't know if you've used that, Gabe, but it was the Whitmire System 3, and now I don't know, it's like the System 4 or something now that BASF owned it. I still call it the Whitmire System 3. Just to show, how old I am. I have a walker that actually I brought in here. That's how old I am. I'm feeling today.
No, you have very valuable information, because I never could thought of that. Yes. So, I could see the database, but why exactly it used to be called that? Exactly. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. So maybe after they acquired the company, they changed the name, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then if I can go to the next one, like Advion that we talked about, Advion gel. Let's see what we find. So again, there's like 100. So it's from Syngenta. So they have been in business for a longer time. But then these are the alternative names: Airlawn and DuPont, Advent, Angel. Have you used the older ones, Andy? I don't mean
Why would you think I would use the old stuff? Thanks a lot. Gabe, have you used the older?
I've never even heard of the older ones, Andy.
Oh my god! I'm sorry. No, I shouldn't
That's
have.
okay.
I shouldn't have asked that.
Yeah, Arlon. Yeah, that's like I'm using that every day.
Do you use that a lot? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Airlawn, I think, is one of those products. Actually, I saw it at Viserys just a few months ago, and I was like, "Oh, this came up as an alternative name on my database." So, but they're still selling it. So, some of these alternative names, I think, are still active. But
Like
DuPont,
secondary branding. Wow.
exactly, or yeah, exactly. And but DuPont, Advent, and Angel, according to the EPA's database, this is inactive. So I suppose it means that they cannot sell products under this name anymore. And the DuPont does not does not exist anymore. So but yeah, exactly. I saw that at the stairs and I was like, oh, Airlawn. So they're still selling that. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, indoxacarb, insecticide. This is a ready-to-use solution. And just as a side note, the formulation doesn't mention the trade secrets of companies, because sometimes they have like emulsifiable concentrate, or they have microencapsulated, but then there's something beyond that. But they don't necessarily mention it in formulation. So EPA has a specific list, like a list of formulations, and they try to match the product with one of these major categories. But like when you talk to manufacturers, sometimes they're like, oh, we have like a proprietary technology in our formulation, which is not exactly microencapsulated or EC, but that's the way EPA does things. So it's out of my control, basically.
Yeah. And you will see some differences too in those product performances, where if you'll get say the same active ingredient and something's off patent and you get a generic version, it might not be the same microencapsulation as the quote unquote brand name version, and you'll have different performance characteristics that you'll notice as you use it.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah, because somebody told me that, oh, why you have our product, mentioned as this, while we have like a proprietary kind of like technology on it. It's a different one. And I was like, I don't know. This is what EPA has put on their website.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Oh, I mean, maybe they thought there's a mistake, because mistakes happen. Sometimes when you process data. But I double checked, and it was exactly what EPA had it, on their database, and probably it was something that was not supposed to be disclosed to the public, like a proprietary or trade secret or whatever. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, you're not going to see that reflected on this database or on EPA's database.
Sure.
And by the way, this is Andy here.
Yeah.
Hey.
And it moves. Let me refresh.
There you go.
Just, types in, and so I really appreciate it, Andy. Yeah.
No problem. For anybody that's listened to it, there's a little scroll at the bottom of just below the search, with some little quotes that I sent off to Siavash.
All right. So I don't want to spend too much time on this and bore you guys, but yeah. So
can you search by? Can you search by? I haven't done this. Like just the registration number?
Oh, not yet. Not yet. I need to add that. Yes. It's not difficult. Sure. It's not too difficult, but actually I'm working on a new system. I have a prototype of it. It requires some extra work, but I'm going to make it the whole thing into, I'm going to add a fuzzy search capability to the system. meaning that let's say with Telstar P professional insecticide, right? Let's say if you forget that there's a P here, okay, or maybe you completely forget to type professional. You see, right now you don't get that match, P professional, but with fuzzy search, it's so flexible. It will match, all those names, including that Telstar professional insecticide. And also, I'm adding the capability to add the company names. For example, I know Advion Angel has Indoxacarb, right? But I'm interested to know if Syngenta has any other product with Indoxacarb in it.
Sure.
That gives me the capability to do that. And I have to do, I mean, it doesn't work right now because it's not that, I haven't updated it yet. But like Syngenta, for example, Indoxacarb, yeah, and it shows me all the matches. And I can even add like Argentine ads. So it really, it's like, to me, the ultimate search flexibility that you can have for pesticide product search. Yeah. And I have a prototype. It works great. I just need to think about a good time to, to put it on the website, and I need to make some changes and stuff like that. But that's the ultimate goal, and nothing can beat that. I'm telling you guys. Yes.
I noticed that it is demanding on, you got to know what it's called pretty accurately. And so what I've taken to doing is less is better. So if I put in like too much, it limits, and I might not find it. I might spell something just not quite right. There's funny spelling sometimes, like if you put in contract blocks and you spell blocks like normal and not BLOX like they do on the label, you won't find anything. So I'll just put in contract, or put it, you know what I mean? Like shorten it down to what I know I'm absolutely, and then sort of sift through the larger return to sort of work around that.
Yeah, if you see any, if you have any suggestions, or if you see any problems, let me know, because that saves me a lot of time down the line too. Because I just set time to time, but then for specific search keywords, I'm sure there are problems. So please let me know. Yes.
I was sorry not to interrupt you. I was wondering if there's a way that you could, and maybe this is just way too crazy, but is there a way that you could combine sort of a personalized AI type of experience into this, where I could, I think my dream, I'm just thinking as a tech out in the field, would be if I could do this. Can I use Indoxacarb for this ant in this setting and have my phone answer me?
Yes, that's actually a good idea. Yes, that's completely possible, because with the AI you need to be careful, because when I use ChatGPT, it makes all kinds of wrong assumptions, and the system talks so confident. When you read the text, it sounds so confident, and it gives you sometimes complete wrong answer, completely wrong, not based on anything. And then as soon as you question that, it says, "Oh, I'm sorry."
It apologizes. That's great.
Apologizes, and then makes another mistakes.
Gabe, so this is an interesting thought that you have, though, because if I understand this right, and this is way outside my wheelhouse. Remember, I predate the internet, so this is way crazy for me. So if you were to train the AI on really good, clean data, and if it was through the Pomerix system or something, where it's you're not asking the internet, you're not asking the AI, can I do this thing for ants? Because the internet's going to tell you sure as heck can. There's all kinds of stuff. Right. We're going to have a great time with this. But you're asking, is there an EPA registered product to treat for this pest in this place? And if the data is really clean that it's trained on, it's the EPA database that it can access, it'll say, yes, there's this many active, products. These ones are not active anymore, and here's what you can use right there. I think your chances of getting wild, erroneous information could be really reduced. And
Oh,
Siavash,
absolutely.
you might know more than I do, so let's hear it.
No. I was actually getting there. I was going to mention
sorry,
that.
sorry.
No. I just no, that's okay. I was just trying to talk about the general problem with AI.
Yeah.
But then I was
Yeah.
going to get there that yes, if you limit, because you don't want the AI to improvise much, right?
Right.
But if you give it like specific data, it works beautifully. And if you look, I already did that a little bit in the description that I talked to you about.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like a that's a static test though, static text. Like I just have some blank, spots, and then the database from the database, I read the data and put in those blank spots. But with a similar system, but a little bit more flexibility. Exactly, I think that would make a very nice user-friendly database. And nowadays, you can pay like ChatGPT or other platforms, and it's like an API. So you make an API call to their website, you give them some information, and then you you get your response back. And by limiting, what the AI can talk about and include, then as Andy mentioned, you're going to get very accurate, response. And absolutely, that's a very neat idea, Gabe, right there.
Yeah, A+ for you, Gabe. Right on.
Yes, exactly. And
Awesome.
and to me right now, I just want to see how much traction this platform is getting, because I can spend a whole amount of time and it's not monetized. As I'm sure you can see, it's not monetized in any way. But if the more people start using it, then there's no limit. We can do all kinds of stuff, and I would be happy to hear like the suggestion that you made, Gabe, or other suggestions on what to do to make it modern, or useful, very useful.
So, Siavash, what's the game plan moving forward for you with this? Because it isn't like when I first started looking at this, I'm like, my God, this thing's free. This database is like industrial strength. It was really impressive. Is this like the route of like Firefox or Open Office, where it's like an open source sort of thing that you're doing like as a nonprofit, or is this going to be something that you're going to monetize into, like, okay, it's a service that you subscribe to, or what's the future hold for you here?
Yes, I'm just exploring ideas, and if you have any suggestions, I would appreciate that. Because even with nonprofits, what's happening is that they're getting money from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And they're nonprofit, but like sometimes the managers and stuff, like they get a lot of money, but they're not like storing money. They're not making extra money. So I'm thinking, hopefully if I can get like sponsors for this project. And I ran ads on it for a short while. I was running Google ads, but the pay was so bad, I was like, you know what? I don't need that money. Let's keep it clean and nice and fast, because it slows down your website when you add these ads. I'm sure you have seen, like if you go to like PCT Online, you'll see that, they run a lot of ads, because that's how their business runs. And they're called a synchronized app. So the website loads, but then stuff keeps loading, or like CNN, when you go on the webpage, and many other websites. So yeah, either like a sponsor or maybe some sort of like an ad model, advertisement, advert model, something like that. Because in the long run, this cannot be continued and maintained on a regular basis just for free, unfortunately, that's what I'm thinking right now. So if there's anyone listening to this podcast who is interested in sponsoring or investing, I would be happy to talk to. And you guys too, if you're interested, let me know. But yeah, I'm just exploring ideas right now.
Yeah, it's neat. It looks great. I mean, I like that you went with not ad supported right now, because boy, when you look at that interface, it reminds me of Google's original homepage where it's clean and straightforward and fantastic. I mean, it's a great service. I'd love to see it continue for sure. So we'll do what we can to drum up some support for you.
Where
Thank
can
you. No,
people go to learn more about what you're doing, Siavash?
like on this website or like my general work?
Yeah, either or, both and.
Yeah, so they can visit like this website, the main page, Pomerix, Pomerix.com, and I have. Let me show you right here. They can go here. This is the main page, and we have like a type of like a blog, talking about different stuff. This is a relatively new part of the website, and then trying to bring in like experts to talk about different things, and some consultation services that I can provide. So yeah, if they go to the main page, and they can definitely see, and this is the link to the actual pesticide database.
Awesome. Cool.
Yes.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Siavash, for joining us here this evening on Coast to Coast Pest Talk. And as always, everyone, give us a review on your favorite podcast catcher. That really helps to increase support for the podcast. And join our LinkedIn group, Coast to Coast Pest Talk on LinkedIn. And we'd love to have you there. Thanks again, Siavash, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.